Today on Verbal to Visual, I'm taking visual notes of Daveed Diggs' interview on the WTF podcast with Marc Maron. Now, as a bit of a Hamilton fanatic, I'm super excited to hear a long-form conversation with one of the original cast members. I've decided to set up some constraints to the note-taking process by creating columns that I will fill top to bottom, left to right. I've also got some sticky notes and index cards on hand in case I want to jot down some ideas to add later or do a rough draft of a sketch before committing it to the page. With that prep in place, here then are the sketch notes that I took alongside a few audio highlights of the podcast, the full episode of which is linked below. I'll swing back in at the end to talk process and follow up. Let's get into it.
Because there's something about you Oakland guys.
Yeah. There is. That's a true statement.
Right? It's true, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had Boots Riley in here the other day.
Yeah, man.
And like him and Kamau go back. Like there's definitely a thing that holds you guys together.
Yeah.
Did you grow up the whole time there?
Yeah. I mean, I was born in Oakland. She's always loved theater, and then she went to Europe and was like hanging lights for the first European tour of Fiddler on the Roof with Zero Mostel and shit like that.
Really?
Yeah, she's got crazy stories from that.
Let's get her in here.
You should. That would be a much more interesting interview, I think, either of my parents. But yeah, they met. My mom after that was a DJ. It was like a club DJ, and
in the 70s?
Yeah. And she used to have the basement of this bar called The Graduate that's still there.
Yeah.
On College. And apparently, from what I understand, she like played the best black music in town. So black folks used to line up down the block to come see my mom spin. And that's where her and my dad met. I have this memory of being in 4th grade and like our teacher making us memorize poems and shit like that.
Yeah.
And
what'd you pick?
I don't remember, but I remember everybody was memorizing essentially the same poem, and I decided one day that I was going to like act my poem out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was a very, very shy kid, so I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I just remember everybody laughed when I wanted them to laugh, and it was like, it was the only... All of a sudden I was like, oh, this gives me a reason to be around people. The New York Times published this article, and Oakland was like number 2 or 3 on a list of top 5 places to visit in the country. And we were like, what are you possibly talking about? And you read further into the article, and everything they mentioned was something that had popped up in the last year that none of us really knew anything about. And that was sort of this kind of moment where we were like, oh shit, something's about to go down.
Right.
But you know, this is the same. There's a kind of rebranding that happens in all cities, right?
Sure. It happened in my old neighborhood.
Yeah. So they replaced all the street signs, International Avenue, and it was this very intentional thing to sort of draw businesses to this street, and like, you know, it's kind of like a major.
They just erase the name, erase the history,
erase the name, erase everything, and you see that happening all over the place, and you see new neighborhoods popping up. Like Temescal was not a neighborhood when I was growing up; that was called North Oakland. Now there's a part of downtown that's called Uptown. Things like that start to be like, well, what are you saying when you erase a history that has existed in this place for that long and that we all grew up with, and what are you placing the value on? Because we loved this place. I was not very focused. I did plays every fall. I ran track. That was kind of the thing I loved.
You still run?
I do, not like I used to, but you know.
Were you like long distance guy?
No, hurdler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't
very
sprint like that anymore.
Specific skill.
It was, yeah. I actually it's so funny. I just talked to my old track coach who's going to come to the premiere
of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
both
nice.
My coaches are coming.
Both from high school and college, or
no? These are my like pre-high school. When I started running when I was like 9, so these are my like early.
Kidding.
Yeah, I ran for the police athletic league in Oakland, and so my like first track coaches are both coming to this premiere.
Oh, that's sweet. So these guys are life changer guys.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting. I'm curious to see what they think of the film, you know, because it's a film that deals with sort of community relationships to police, and these are police officers who I grew up as having as my track coaches, who like when I was going to college literally went door to door to raise money to help me go and stuff. Like,
really?
You know, sent me off to college with like $4,000 or $5,000 that they had like hand to hand gone to collect. Like, I mean, a really just incredible people who I grew up with.
They looked out for you, and they probably taught you some life lessons.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, running for them was and it was the only way I got to travel. We used to I ran in the like Junior Olympics every year, so like as a kid I got to go all over the country. I went to New Orleans for the first time when I was like 12 or something. You know, these things sort of
with the team.
Yeah, and like Seattle and Buffalo, New York, like places that I would never have got to see. The only reason I ever got to travel, we didn't have money, so it was just,
was this team with these guys.
I went to Brown University
on
Rhode Island.
To study what? What was the
theater? I ended up being a very reluctant theater major, I think.
But you didn't do theater in high school.
I did theater all through high school. The theater program there is actually it's good because every teacher sort of champions a different theory.
Oh yeah.
And all theory is garbage, but like you learn a bunch of different ways of looking at things, and then
you make your own craft.
Yeah, exactly.
But like when you say somebody was your mentor, what was the name of that
Marc Joseph, who he founded this organization called Youth Speaks that Raphael and I both came up through in when we were kids in high school, that teaches like spoken word to
the guy
kids.
You wrote with?
Yeah,
that teaches spoken word to
high school age kids, teenagers. Okay. And so that was really what got me started writing was through this kind of spoken word community. When I was still in the Bay, I was substitute teaching. That was one of my things. And through
what subjects? Anything?
Whatever. Yeah. Sub whatever. And then I was also developing sort of rap curriculum for like middle school kids.
What does that mean?
I got this grant. This place called the Marsh Youth Theater got grants to sort of pay me to go into San Francisco and Oakland middle schools.
Yeah.
And I would work with their English and social studies teachers and sort of figure out what they were teaching, and then come in once a week or every other week and just do sort of rap workshops with the kids, but that were sort of focused on the kinds of books they were reading, or kinds of periods of history. So I'd bring in poets that had something to do with the thing. We'd sort of study those, and then I'd get them to write and perform their own. So the reason that happened is I'm substitute teaching, and due to a clerical error, I am called to substitute teach the same class with another sub, which is not supposed to happen.
Right.
It was like, and we sort of team teach this class, and as part, I think these were fourth graders or something. When you're doing you just come up with anything to keep them entertained for 10 minutes. So we start freestyling with them at some point. We both had this weird skill set for a substitute teacher to have. And I ended up giving him a ride home. He was like, we're talking. We were like, he's an actor in the Bay Area. His name is Anthony Viniziali. And I'm giving him a ride home to San Francisco. We're talking. He says, "Oh, I'm part of this group, Freestyle Love Supreme, with this cat, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and all this stuff. Oh, you got to meet all these people. They're in New York, but we'll introduce you at some point." So when they couldn't fill shows, they would fly me over from California and have me do these freestyle shows with them. So that's how I met Lin, was due to this working with a good friend of his. Like, I was in Hamilton, which was a totally life-changing, career-changing event for me, because my friend asked me to come to a reading of his play. I tell that shit to kids all the time who are like trying to figure out like logic their way into this business, and it's like, well, that's not it. Do the thing you love with the people you love.
Do the thing you love with the people you love. I thought that would be a good place to pause the podcast and pause these notes. Be sure to check out the full episode if you enjoyed those tidbits and want to hear the full conversation. One of the things that I noticed in this conversation is how easy it is to get excited about the things you have in common with someone you admire. In this case, that's track and substitute teaching. Like Diggs, I ran track in college and found a ton of value in the experience that sports provided from a very young age. And the habits and the discipline that came from playing sports provided benefits far past the time when I stopped doing it competitively. And I also substitute taught while I was figuring out whether or not I wanted to jump into teaching full time. Instead of going down that route, I got pulled into the world of sketchnoting. this world, and that's the skill that I now teach. But as fun as those points of connection are, it's the differences that are just as, if not more, intriguing. Diggs' experience growing up as a person of color in Oakland and having that early exposure to theater and spoken word. As Maron points out in the full episode, when you look back on his life, it's not hard to see how Diggs was the perfect fit for Jefferson and Lafayette. But the serendipity of what got him there struck me too, and how it came down to doing the thing that you love with the people that you love. It sounds like he's still doing that with his new movie, Blindspotting, which I can't wait to see. From a process perspective, I enjoyed having those gray-lined columns in place so that I didn't have to think too much about layout as I went. Using gray made it easy to cross the lines when I needed to, either if a sketch got a bit too big or when I wanted to connect ideas from different parts of the conversation. So if you like the idea of taking visual notes but don't want to face an entirely blank page, you might try setting up this constraint yourself. I hope that you enjoyed seeing these notes come together while listening to a few highlights from the podcast. If you would like to learn this skill of sketchnoting, check out the other videos and the full courses that are available at verbaltovisual.com. Links down below. Thank you so much for watching, and a special shout out to all fellow Hamilton enthusiasts that clicked on this video simply because they saw David in the thumbnail. I'll be back again soon with more interesting ideas and conversations shared visually. Until then.